So today we're talking on a business topic. We
Ooh.
are going to talk about the key word that seems to be floating around, especially in recent years. I think it's been around forever, but in recent years it seems to be misused, abused, or marketed how I feel is unethically in some ways, whether people know or they don't. It's this word of leadership in business. Business leadership, industry leadership, I'm a leader of or in. It's just an interesting thing that I've been seeing, at least in my world, and in other worlds as well, that has been abused in many ways.
The entrepreneur world really tends to take words and abuse them, I found.
Like authenticity.
Yeah.
A lot of people have been saying authenticity is being overused. And it's like, that's literally like my foundation in my whole business identity, I guess, is the authenticity word. But it wasn't a big deal when I was starting to talk about it.
Right.
But now it's overused.
Way overused.
Because
it works. And
for
it's
a time.
Catchy and people like it. So everyone jumps on the word and then it gets saturated. Yeah, there are definitely a lot of fads in the business world, the entrepreneur world. Same with the supplement industry too. It's actually very similar.
True.
There's a lot of like pseudoscience, or there's this one ingredient that people really like, and then they'll just throw it in everything and water it down, and then it's like 0.1 milligram that's in this product, but they put it on the label. So Garcinia, red ketones, there's a bunch of stuff.
Right.
And they're like, we need it. So as every industry, however, I think the business industry, the entrepreneur industry is more impactful because they're selling ideas and concepts.
Yes, and it's always this kind of, are you up to date?
Yeah.
Kind of, I'm not going to say scheme, but some of them can be schemy.
A lot of them are very schemy, actually.
Yeah. You think you're getting this big old course, coaching program, or website, or whatever it may be, you know, whether it's tangible, digital, or an actual like program that you're entering into.
Okay.
And on the other side of it, you're like, what the hell did I just pay for? I could literally get this off of that one blog I read last month, right?
Someone turns a blog into 20 videos and then sells it for $1,000, and then you buy it and then you're angry.
Which is fine, but I think price point also comes into play with that. So this whole like, be a leader in business, be an industry leader. And this idea of leader almost being watered down.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, leadership and being a leader in business or in industry is not what people are really thinking. They think it's a fancy word that they can tag on to their name or their business card in a sense. And it's really, in my opinion, a type of false advertisement.
Okay. So.
And it makes me mad. Obviously, that's why we're talking about it. And I'm so passionate in my voice.
So a neat thing, right? A lot of these terms aren't standardized. Like I could put "I'm the leader of anything" essentially on my business card.
Yeah.
And no one, it's not like a certification. It's not a degree. What isn't a leader? I think let's start with what it's not.
Well, let's put that into perspective by let's say what's on the business card.
Yeah.
Okay. I am a leader of. For you, for example, you could say that and be like, I'm the leading mastermind in Colorado.
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right, but is that true?
It's not true.
Exactly. It's a type of mastermind. It's in Colorado, and it's not a bad one at all. But is it the leading one?
It's my leading one.
In your world.
To me.
But to the market, is it actually a leading mastermind? And the honest answer is no.
Well, what would make it a leading mastermind?
Let's really think about what a market or population thinks of leading, right? It means first, in a sense, or it's ahead of its time, or it's leading the flock to follow its type of model, right? Is everyone flocking to lead your model?
I mean, so mine personally, no, but masterminds are dramatically growing much faster than I would have ever expected.
And are they following a leading model? Like a Tony Robbins mastermind or mastermind.com, or you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. They're probably the leaders right now. Or they are the biggest one. So mastermind.com probably has the biggest mastermind.
So are they the leading one? You see, this is where I'm getting
at. That's a good question.
It's misused in a way. And it can be misleading as well. And so this is where I'm like, using that leader word is I think you should be very intentional with it. And maybe that's what they're doing, really. but being
And being
ethically
intentionally
being
misleading.
ethically intentional about it, because you can really get it really becomes again abuse, where it's like you can't really use authenticity anymore because it's misused all the time. I think I heard leadership in a term that really I felt was the most accurate amongst them all.
Okay.
A lot of people think of leader as almost like the dictator, right? I tell
is
you
one
what to
word.
do.
Yeah.
And that is not true.
Mhm.
What is a leader?
Can I make an example of that one?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times managers
Mhm.
in retail or in any business, they want to be a leader and they feel that leadership is telling their employees what to do.
Right.
And they're saying, well, I'm being a leader because I'm delegating all of these tasks.
Mhm.
So you think that is not leadership also?
No.
Okay.
They actually describe leadership in the sense of the alpha and the pack. Okay, so when everyone thinks of the alpha, they're like, oh, the guy who's like big and in charge and will put anyone down.
So the bro that picks on all the other guys, right?
in a way,
Yeah.
or they follow because he's the big bad meanie lion or wolf or all those other masculine things you want to put out there.
Okay.
But what a leader really is in this context is the alpha is only the reason why an alpha is an alpha is because that's the person people look to when a problem needs to be solved.
Okay.
And they truly feel that person can help the pack solve the problem. Okay. And that is not always the manager. That is not always the leader of the company. That is not always the president of the United States or the world. I don't care who you are. Okay. Right. It's who do you turn to really get solutions? And sometimes the manager, perceived leader, will actually look to someone else to help solve the problems.
And it's infuriating when it's an employee that makes way less money than them, but it happens a whole lot.
But leadership doesn't necessarily have to be a hierarchy.
Right.
Leadership is just, are you the person people turn to solve the problems? Meaning, you are going to lead the pack to solve the problem. That's all it is. That's really all it is.
So, and the reason I'm asking these questions is because there's a thing I believe as well. So it's not, so a person, I can't define myself as a leader.
In a way.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just because I'm putting that designation on myself doesn't make me a leader.
Like, I put it on my business card, therefore.
Yeah. I am the leading mastermind here in Colorado. So there.
See, I think that's a great mission to be the leading mastermind in Colorado.
To be. Ooh.
See, it's different when it's a mission versus a statement of ego.
I really like that discernation right there. Is that it's more of something to strive for than to define yourself as.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so when you say you're the leader in the industry, it's like, but are you?
Right.
I have a background in helping, I guess you could say, facilitate leadership or create leadership within companies. So when I was talking about, different generations, how they can work together, all that jazz, it had to come down to really personal self-leadership. And it's really all about leading yourself first, so that then you may also help others lead if that is what you are called upon.
Yeah.
Right? So it's creating leadership abilities within yourself. Okay. And so again, it's introspective. And I have been told that I'm a leader a lot. And I hate it.
Okay.
I'm honestly like, I hate being called a leader because I'm like, oh, that means I have to do shit. And it's like, no matter what I seem to enter into, whether I'm like intentionally saying, I am not leading this group, I am not doing this, I'm okay, yes, I will MC your event, but I am not the leader of your company. Yeah. And then all of a sudden they're like, you want to be a co-owner of my company? Do you want to do this? And I'm like, why am I being called into what is perceived a leadership position? And it's just something that people try to pull from me all the time. And again, this isn't coming from ego, but people, when they're trying to pull leadership from you, again, that means they see you as someone that can solve problems.
Okay. There's a show, Community, I've been telling you about. I've been watching this one. So, of course, everything goes back to references. So there's one main character. He's like an ex-lawyer. And so he's like the lead of the social group. And there's one episode where it was they have these elaborate paintball fights that are like school-wide.
That's awesome.
Above. They're amazing.
My university did not have that.
And this show takes everything to the extreme.
Right.
So it's hilarious. But so one of the guys in the group, he's like, I'm going to be the leader of this and we're going to do it this way. And everyone goes to the main guy who's the lawyer. And he says, I don't call myself a leader. I reluctantly accept leadership when everyone demands it of me.
That is so accurate. Oh my gosh. That is the best example ever.
So that phrase really stuck out, and it's so perfect. I reluctantly accept leadership. But he says it arrogantly because he's kind of an asshole.
It's a joke, for sure. Right. But it's so true.
It is.
And I think that's why I really don't enjoy seeing, it really grinds my gears when I see people marketing, especially when I see sponsored or I see those, ads on YouTube or whatever. And they're like, do you want to be a leader in your industry? Do you want to be a business leader? And it's like, do you want to lead your company too? And it's like, it really bothers me because there's no, it's really hitting ego, which is part of sales. And I get that. But it's really not true to the statement.
Yeah.
And it's really calling out, I guess you could say, narcissism in a lot of ways.
It is. The narcissist personality wants to be the leader.
Exactly.
And it's more of a push to leadership.
Right.
Instead of a naturally being built up.
Exactly. So it just really bothers me because in the business entrepreneurship industry, you see a lot of B2B businesses, especially, I find, that really, in my opinion, unethically use terms to make money.
Yes.
And they underdeliver.
Yeah.
It's like, let's oversell and underdeliver. I hate that business model. I'm like, if you market well, not saying market crap, market well and ethically and really hit passion, purpose, and soul, then you overdeliver.
Right.
And that's what really sells you in the end. Because how many times have you heard of someone going, I paid like $10,000 and that program has nothing in it?
Right.
I've heard that so many times.
I've heard it many times, yeah. Or they pay the $10,000, go to the program to be sold another $50,000 program.
We're only going to give you a handful of information, but if you want all of it, it's like, grinds my gears.
It's infuriating when you paid tens of thousands of dollars for the information, and then they want to sell you more.
Which is
my biggest gripe of
ridiculous.
the coaching industry.
Yeah. And I get the model because I've used parts of that. But I over-deliver. I really, really try to over-deliver because I've been on that side where I've paid $15,000 for something, and it's like, I better get everything from you, and I better get more than what I'm expecting.
Yeah.
And I really try to do that because playing the whole pay into something more, pay into something more, and pay into something more, so you get more and more and more information that you can get from a coach you pay for $500 a month.
I actually do think the coaching industry has dramatically shifted over the last couple of years to really destroy all of the coaches that do that model of like, come do this thing, and then we're going to sell you more, then we're going to sell you more. Because I think that has hurt the industry dramatically.
Yeah.
But now I think it's really who gives away the best free information. And if you're giving the best free information away, then your paid content is going to be way better.
Yeah.
So
hopefully.
But I think that's where the shift has gone, towards really delivering valuable, doable and completable courses.
Yeah.
And giving more good stuff away for free. It's all out there anyway, right? It's been taught for like 30 years now.
Yeah.
And it's been taught for longer than that, but we've had really good access to it for at least the last 20 since the internet's kind of blown up.
Well, can you think of someone other than yourself who has been the example of a business leader or a leader in an industry? Can you think of someone that you've known or you have studied?
One of my favorite leaders was a gentleman named Ramit Sethi. So he wrote a book, I Will Teach You to Be Rich. And he wrote the book in college. It's just like, he's Indian, so he's got like, here's all the stuff that us Indians know and how we save money. Because they are particularly good at it.
Right.
Put it into a book. Sold it for maybe $9. Now he gives it away for free. I'm pretty sure you can just go download it. And then his whole model was that, like, I'm going to give you the best free information, better than any other coach out there. And then his paid courses were expensive, and he wouldn't let anyone join if they were in debt. he would make you show bank statements to show you've paid off your credit cards
See, that's awesome.
before you could join one of his paid programs to take it to that next level.
Right.
And he's done very well. His company's branched off, and now it's got a bunch of sub companies under it, and he doesn't do anything anymore.
Nice.
So
just in college, decided to write a book,
Mhm.
and look where we are now.
Yeah.
Yep, I think that's a great example.
Yeah. Do you have an example? You're like me, obviously.
I have met a lot of people that I feel have pieces of that.
Mhm.
Have I identified someone that I feel truly lives up to that name? Yes and no.
Okay.
Again, it's like I haven't really seen, let's use the word, real authentic, real transparent, real ethical use of these words we're talking about in marketing
Mhm.
and then in the deliverables. Gary Vaynerchuk, I think, is close
Okay.
because he is very transparent and very authentic in that way.
Okay.
Now, I can't say anything about his actual programs because I haven't done any of that.
Mhm.
Based off the books I've read, I think it's great.
Okay.
So I can't say yes or no because I haven't dived into any of his programs.
I think he gives a lot of practical advice away for free.
Yes.
A lot of really good practical advice.
Right.
So I would agree with that, actually.
But one example I found in my cross-generational studies, I guess you could put it, one of them was actually studying a little bit of Jack Welch, who is one of the past CEOs of General Electric. This is like turn of the century, late 90s, early 2000s.
Oh.
And this is when General Electric had a lot of issues because this is the tech bubble period.
Okay.
This is like emails taken over, like you have to have a website, like social media is kind of beginning to come around, and so you have all of these guys, and let's call it old white guys in the C-suite and in leadership per se positions in General Electric, which is a huge company. And they were having issues really staying relevant in the market. Because, the Sears catalog is coming out and no one's looking at it anymore.
Right.
So they don't look at, what's coming in the mail. They're looking at what's online. This is the new place, right?
Yeah.
So he is looking to try and find a way to stay relevant. And he was on a jet plane, of course, but he was on a jet plane of some kind. And he's sitting next to this other CEO who is younger than him. And the CEO says, I'm meeting with my mentor. And he goes, oh, who's your mentor? And he's like, oh, my mentor is this 20-year-old something. And Jack's like, wait, your mentor is 20 years old? He's a hell of a lot younger than you? Like, that was unheard of back then, right?
Yeah.
And so this guy, he's like, yeah, he's taught me this, he's taught me that, and so on and so forth. And Jack's like, this is the best idea ever. So what does he do? He goes straight to General Electric and he turns the whole company upside down, basically. And he's like, to all the bigwigs out there, he's going, you need to go find some greenhorn guy at base level, minimum wage basically, and go and make them your mentor. And so they did.
Okay.
And the company turned right back around, and it was amazing how they just exploded at that point.
Yeah.
Because again, these guys were like, how do you open an email? And things have changed definitely now. People are more savvy in that area, but you can still learn a lot from younger people. So again, it was like putting ego away and saying, we just want to get shit done to be able to serve our clients.
Yeah.
And that to me showed great leadership to put the ego aside.
I love that story, actually, a lot.
Yeah.
So he saw someone who he respected who put their ego aside. So he was able to do it for himself.
Well, he did say he had never heard of it before. So I want to give him credit.
Yeah.
That if he had heard it from another source, he might have considered it.
Maybe. Yeah. Now, what's really funny, the alternative of that, I don't know if you watched any of the congressional hearings where they were grilling.
No.
What's his name?
Zuckerberg?
Yeah. So Mark Zuckerberg and
the
other Facebook.
When he was going to talk to Senate and
and they just asked all these ridiculous questions.
Like, how do you make money if all of your users have an account for free?
Yeah.
Oh, sir, we do advertising.
So imagine if,
so funny.
And it was one of the 4Gen Nows, I don't know if she coined the term, but it was like, was it cross-generational mentorship? Or was it...
Oh, are you talking about Lynch when she did her keynote?
Yeah. It was
something like that,
It was a really neat one where take the C-suite executives and have dual mentorship with someone who is a millennial or a Gen Z.
Mhm.
And they can both teach each other really great things because they have two very different ways of thinking, but that doesn't make anyone better or worse.
Correct.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
that's
that
really
was big
cool.
in cross-generational topics.
Yeah.
Brooke and myself also did a lot of talks on dual mentorship, and we had
Yeah.
that relationship ourselves, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
you lived it. there.
exactly, and
Yeah.
it was amazing what each of us could learn. He learned Snapchat, and I learned how to really enter a room, how to really begin a C-suite conversation.
Yeah.
Like, it was really cool.
Yeah.
Also a great way to leverage, because I learned that walking into a room, or on stage, I always have to have Brooke walk on first
Mhm.
to gain credibility from the crowd, because usually it was C-suite older guys.
Okay.
And then I would come on stage.
Yeah.
If it was the other way, the whole room changed.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because they came in with that first impression of
You have no
"Here's this
experience.
little
There's
girl
no
who's
way
gonna
you
tell
had
me."
leadership experience to talk about leadership. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that whole thing.
Mm.
So I think this is really where my anger comes from. All these old white guys telling me I can't do it because I'm a young, cute girl.
Well, shockingly, we are now at the age where millennials are becoming the majority,
We are the majority.
and we're setting into the seats of power of majority, rather.
Mm.
So because something I rant about is Gen X kind of opted out.
They're checking out. They're like, no, I'm going to go do my own thing. You guys take care of it.
Yeah, they did their own thing. They really didn't take an active role in leadership because that was just Gen X, right?
Kind of. They wanted to. But boomers, because they stayed in their jobs for so long, there was no room for them to take those positions as much as another generation would. Because there's few Gen X, loads of boomers, and loads of millennials. So they're literally being sandwiched. So instead, they're like, bye, and go create their own companies like Steve Jobs and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and I felt it was just a culture of rebellion where they didn't want to really dive in and become political and become just heavily involved with changing the country.
And you can see that in the political realm.
Yes. So, but now that most millennials we're 40 now, and we're stepping into and kind of pushing out the baby boomers as far as executive seats. And
well, they've reached that time where they're actually leaving now.
Yeah. And we're making more money. And we're getting more
because we don't have kids,
and we don't have kids. Yeah.
We don't have cars, we don't have houses. Like, we have the availability of money, I would say. So we still have no money, but we have the availability for money.
Right.
Yeah.
More, so I think it's a really neat shift of power. However, I would say a lot of us have never been taught to be leaders.
No.
So now we're stepping into these leadership positions without the experience or
mentorship.
Mentorship would probably be the right word.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And, you can see that not only in the workforce, but you can see that in business too.
Yes.
And it's this lack of asking for help.
That's a big part of it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we're also not asking for the mentorship for leadership. So if we have a shift of financial power, we have words like leadership that are being marketed incorrectly and inauthentically. What does one do to become more of a leader?
I honestly think it's what you were saying before we started recording, taking action. That's really the biggest thing. And really putting yourself out there and taking the falls, but still moving anyway. Kind of our motto, crushing it anyway.
I agree with that completely. I think the only way to be a leader is to gain experience. And what's the quote? So it's the only way to wisdom is to get experience, and the only way to get experience is to fail a lot.
Yep.
That's a paraphrased quote.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think millennials in now, maybe not before, but now we are more comfortable with failing more than ever. And because growing up, right, it's that whole trophy kind of mentality of like, oh, you failed, but you still get a trophy, right? Well, now we've had some experience and we're going, that doesn't happen, right? So we're definitely in the more comfortable in saying, yeah, I might as well fail because I'm not going to have a retirement anyway. At least that's the joke.
Outlook of life.
Yeah, it's very bleak, actually. Millennials are actually one of the beginning, I guess you should say, beginning of the generations of saying my life and the end of my life is not going to be as good as the beginning of my life. And Gen Z is very much in going, my life is only good now and it will suck later. Like they are very much that way. And it's kind of true.
It's so sad. Like, especially
Yeah.
watching TikToks. Like,
Yeah.
Gen Z is so
Stressed out.
they're just sad.
Yeah.
They're like, I don't care if I die. I'd rather be dead. You mean the world's gonna end? That
Yeah.
sounds better than going to school tomorrow.
Right? Generational dynamics, you really
aw.
learn that's really where they're coming from. Because who were their parents? Gen X and older millennials that
Mhm.
had to deal with the you're not going to get anything, so might as well just not care. You know, and then they go off and do their own thing, you know, and that's totally true.
Yeah.
So we are entering a weird phase of millennials haven't been catered to learn,
Mhm.
at least I could say could learn how to become great leaders
Yeah.
or how to do anything leadership related in that sense. And Gen Z is going, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. So, and I don't think we quite know how to approach that either. So, what do you
Yeah.
think are some solutions that people could actually help other people?
I think the best way to gain it is exactly like we were talking about, find a good mentor.
Mhm.
And I think this is kind of my takeaway is how can we create a system of actual mentorship
Yeah.
where it's really full of respect and where it's really garnered towards bettering the world.
Right. I think leadership is also something to where you can say no. Leadership is
Yeah.
knowing when to say no to things.
Okay.
Because again, when you enter into a leadership position, because everyone's like, we want you to be the leader, or you
Yeah.
want a mission to be accomplished, and therefore you are kind of leading that mission.
Mhm.
There is so many things that will come your way where you feel like you have to say yes. And
Okay.
actually, sometimes to better the mission and the people you're working with
Mhm.
is to say no.
I agree with that completely.
Mm.
Yeah.
So being
And-
a leader is not to say yes all the time. It's knowing when to say no.
And that's the difference. So if you're that's like codependence again, is feeling like you have to say yes to everything to
Yeah.
please others.
Mhm.
That's yeah, you're right. So even if you're doing a lot and you're saying yes to everything and trying to get it all done, you still might just be codependent and not an actual leader.
Exactly.
Neat.
Mm-hmm.
I like that one.
Boom. But also, leadership is being able to take the brunt force of
Mhm.
making those decisions.
Absolutely.
So if you have to say no, there might be consequences
And
because
some
of that.
backlash.
As if you say yes, there might be consequences too.
Mhm.
So it's really making those choices to better the people and better your mission.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
Ethically, though.
Yeah.
So stop marketing business leadership, and you can promote self leadership. I like that.
Okay.
How can you be a leader to yourself?
Mhm.
That is great. All else, please stop.
Yeah.
Unless you are actually that.
Everyone listening that does that. Because
All 5 people listening.
we're in charge. Stop doing that.
Stop it now.
We'll cut that out too. I just think it's really funny.
Okay. So what's the number one takeaway you are walking away from this conversation?
So my number one takeaway is definitely, I really think the fastest path to good leadership and having more real leaders in our world is having good mentorship.
Mm.
So especially all of us that are going from our 20s into our 30s, or even who are in our 20s, or even our 40s, right? Like, how can we find someone that who's in their 60s or 70s that would be a good mentor?
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see more of that happening. And vice versa, how can those who have experience, they've retired from their companies,
Yeah.
they've done really well, how can they go find someone that they respect and they line up with value-wise and teach them the opposite side in a healthy relationship?
Yeah.
Healthy mentorship, I should say.
Side note, that's why I really miss Forja now. That was
Yeah.
a really great place.
That was.
And he's no longer doing it at all.
It was so
Website's
close
down and
to
everything.
having something amazing there.
More saying no. No. Continue to say no. Yes. I'm the reluctant leader in me. I'm like, no, I don't want to do it anymore.
My name is no. My number is no. No.
Oh my gosh. TikTok just came to mind.
That's going to be your new theme song.
That's going to be yes. My number one takeaway is to continue and refining, seeing the red flags in poor leadership. that's out there.
Okay, I like that.
There are plenty of people that I have consulted or spoken in front of, with, you name it, and I didn't catch on to the red flags sooner. And I've said this before, but seeing the red flags sooner, taking my time with certain people or anyone really, to really filter out if this is someone I want to work with or not. Do they have self-leadership? Are they an actual leader, or are they a taker?
Right. Yeah.
Egomaniacs.
Yeah.
Narcissists. All those things.
Yeah. That's a really good thing to look for. Because it's so draining getting into those business relationships.
And that could be
often not productive.
Yeah, and that could be anyone you're working with, or you're co-working with, or collaborating, or even working for, right? It doesn't matter the hierarchy. It's really seeing these people for how they act rather than what they say. Well, that is an episode of I Don't Know What the Fuck I'm Doing podcast.
Yeah, thank you everyone. We are honored and excited to have you here.
Yeah.
Go ahead and check out our beacons.ai/IDKWTF to get access, all of the things. You can join our Patreon, which is a wonderful resource.
Behind the scenes,
yeah,
secret interviews,
the 20 minutes of building up before we're comfortable talking
a
about
lot of things to laugh at. And also a place to where you can get prizes to travel and other tech items like Oculuses and things like that. We're still figuring out if we're doing that every quarter or not, which I think we've kind of settled on. But we will be giving out prizes to travel and other tech things, even portable studios. For your video and photography needs in business. So go and check that out on beacons.ai/IDKWTF to enter into Patreon and all the other things.
Yeah. And thanks everyone. Once again, you, whoever you are my favorite person.